Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Heidson, and with Darragh McAnthony, chairman and co-owner of English Championship side, Peterborough United. And so I want to start today's football podcast, given our results of the weekend, by talking tennis, so that we don't have to talk about our results of the weekend. So anything to put off football for a few minutes.
What do you want to talk about instead?
Yeah, so I take it that you were watching Emma Raducanu and just what an amazing. It's like a fairy tale.
To be fair, I'm one of those GOAT watchers. So I was a real Federer fan of tennis. I was a Serena fan. I'm a Tiger Woods fan. And unfortunately, when Tiger got his injuries, I kind of fell out of love with golf. I used to be like passionate about watching golf. And when he came back and won last year, I was practically masturbating watching that, him winning the Masters. And my missus got me back into the tennis this year. Hence, I took her to the US Open. She's a big tennis fan. And I've taken her to Wimbledon. And we watched, when we were there, we got to see Leila Fernandez and then live. And then obviously we'd followed Emma, in a couple of her matches. We knew about what happened to her in the summer, where she had anxiety and everything else. And I have to say, the innocence of those two girls in the final, it was fucking brilliant. It was just tennis. There was no political statements. There was no, you had Osaka wearing her mask last year and, the whole BLM thing. And, this was just sport again. And to be fair, after the last couple of years, that kind of made me happy. That might be controversial to say that, but just tennis, just sport. Watching that Russian yesterday whoop Djokovic to stop him get the Grand Slam, fuck yeah. Because I didn't want him to have the GOAT tag with Grand Slam next to it, being a Federer fan. So, Emma, absolutely superb. Like, I've been a Layla fan, and then I watched the British girl and became a fan of her. So I wanted both of them in that final. So, having them both and obviously my missus is jumping up and down in the kitchen, do you know what I mean? And it was just brilliant. Do you know the problem with you Brits is? I remember when she went to set up, I went to the Jacks and I pull up my Twitter and you got everyone on there who I follow. Yeah, one set to go, one set, a bit like the Euros. And it's like, calm the fuck down, shut up and let her win. Stop. This is what you did in the Euros. Oh, we're winning. Yeah, it's coming up. Fucking be quiet. I'm not a superstitious guy. So I'm looking at these people like talking about this girl like with a set to go. She's got a job to complete. Just let her get the job done. But yeah, fair play. I mean, lovely young girl. Every time she's interviewed, and it's like her fourth tournament, or I want to say even less. It's insane to win the qualifying and not lose a set, and to win 9-10 matches. I got to listen to Chrissy Everett here in America. She's the commentator, that fucking old windbag. And all she wants to talk about is Coco Gauff or whatever the next big thing in America. So desperate for a Serena, so desperate for whatever else. It's like, yeah, no, sorry, Emma's miles better. And I predict she will be the next GOAT in women's tennis. She will dominate women's tennis. I mean, she's 20th in the world after this. I mean, she will, look, she got the right people around her. Her parents have done a great job bringing a great girl up. As long as the British media lay off her and give her space. And I've seen all this crap today about where she was born and blah, 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 blah. She's fucking British. Forget about where she came from, where she was born. She's a British girl. She speaks like a Brit. You know what I mean? She sounds like a Surrey girl. I couldn't give a fuck if one parent was from Canada and one was from Romania. My kids, I'm Irish, the mom's British, our grandparents Italian. At the end of the day, my kids are pretty much like Americans. So it doesn't matter, that's your allegiance. So, I forget all that crap and all the virtue signaling on Twitter. Get behind her and get excited because Murray's done and this girl's now the future. And I was only saying the other day to my missus, what did the LTA and the what's the normal tennis over there in England, the Lawn Tennis Association? What are they spending their money on? Because since Murray, they've not produced anything really. And now along comes this girl, and she's just and that Leila Fernandez will be the same. She's sensational as well, and they'll battle each other.
Yeah, you got to. When I was watching that, I was thinking, this isn't the last time they're playing each other.
No,
this is going to be the next 10 years.
No. Absolutely. And look, let's not kid ourselves. Emma is miles the better tennis player. The other girl, Layla, is more of a blocker. She's more of a wall. She's like a Djokovic. But talent-wise, Emma's got the tennis talent miles better, in my opinion. So, you know what? To be 18, that young, and, I've got two daughters, and she's on her own with her team. Her parents are back in the UK because of stupid fucking COVID restrictions. She's been an absolute credit, to Britain. And after COVID and everything else, that's the kind of people were comparing it to the Leicester win the Premier League and everything else. And I'm like, look, this is an 18-year-old kid unseeded who's come through qualifying. I mean, this could be monumental. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely right. Away from football, that's been really exciting. And then obviously the NFL's been back this weekend. I was watching the GOAT Tom Brady on Thursday winning. I watched my Patriots team fucking chunk it up yesterday and lose. Watch Liverpool obviously do the business against Leeds. And then, I said to my manager yesterday, as he was winding me up about Liverpool, I said, listen to me. If Liverpool lose and the Patriots lose, I'm done with sports. I'm retiring on Monday. I am absolutely done. So I was getting to that stage.
So Liverpool saved you this
weekend.
Yeah,
they did. I was about to go and strangle Sadio Mane because he fucking missed about 10 chances to put the game to bed, and I kept thinking, worst case scenario, Jesus Christ, if Leeds score here, you know what I mean? And but yeah, Liverpool were very good. So from that point of view, look, I'll take Liverpool winning. And that was really my only highlight of a sports weekend. There was no other great highlights, to be fair.
No, I was clinging everything for me onto Emma and the tennis, given we didn't have a great deal to cheer about either. So I guess let's bring it down to earth a little bit and talk about Saturday. So 6-2 at Sheffield United.
Well, your game was a lot closer than ours, but 1-0. So okay, so where do I start? It was one of them where I'm watching the first half, and of course Sheffield United, they've changed it up. They got different front players in. He's obviously at the international break, and they're making a big difference. They got a big crowd, so it was key. Don't go behind early. Crowd get behind them, and I've always said Sheffield United are going to be up there. I even said that before we played them. Forget the shit start. It's a quality team, and we got 1-0 down, and I'm thinking, fuck, this could get a bit dicey here. And then Marriott equalizes, okay, and you're thinking, okay, and we've weathered the storm. We go in at halftime. The first 5-7 minutes of the second half were very good. We're on the front foot, and Marriott's in again, 1-on-1, and an easier one than the first one. And unfortunately, he's chunked it straight to the goalie. I mean, you put it anywhere else, high, whatever else, it's a goal. I mean, he's 5 yards from the goal, and unfortunately, the angle, he's just chunked it to the goalie into his hands. But that's 2-1, and that place with 25,000 fans gets very, very quiet quickly. Nervous, pressure, everything.
Especially after a bad start.
I thought at that moment, shit, that could be us fucking in trouble here. And unfortunately, it was, and I don't want Alan Swan, if you're listening, don't come out with sensational headlines. I'm not slating my team, my players. Look, we're going to lose to some good teams in this league, and we're going to lose to some big teams. We're going to win a lot of games. As bad as it was on Saturday, I guess we lost a goal from a mistake, and it was a bad mistake. And then a minute later, we lose a goal again. And at 3-1, it's kind of away at Sheffield United, 27,000 fans up at it, behind their team. You're dead and buried. And, and then it was rag arse rovers for a period of time. It was basically like 25, 30 minutes where it was bad. Prior to that, and this was in the first half, Marriott nicked the ball inside their half, last defender. He's in on goal basically from 30, 40 yards away. It's potentially a red card, but the ref didn't even give a foul. And I'll give you the statistics, and that's not where we lost the game, by the way, because of the referee's performance. But we committed 18 fouls that were given as free kicks. Sheffield United had 1. So they only committed 1 foul in 98 minutes of football compared to our 18. I think that tells you the story and what way the ref was watching the game. But anyway, those little small, I've always said it, the strikers aren't going to get 4 or 5 chances against your Sheffield Uniteds. So if you get 2 or 3, you got to take them. So the only positives for me were front 2 scored goals. That was good. Great away crowd. Our 2,000 fans were tremendous throughout, stayed with us. We were resilient in the first half, and then we obviously just had a really bad period in the second half where we lost our heads. And what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to learn how to cope and deal with that pressure. And this is that step up. This is where you're going to come under tremendous amounts of pressure. And if you concede a goal, okay, it's not the end of the world. Shit, if you concede 2 goals, we have goals in us. It's not the end of the world. Dig in for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And you've got to do that. And
trust yourself that you can come
Trust
back.
yourself. Dig in. Trust in the process that you've already had 2 1-on-1s. Trust that you've gotten some really good moments against the Premier League back line. Trust that your football was that good to get you in those moments. It could again. So we lost a bit of belief. You know, a bit of a watershed moment. I'm hoping it's a real learning moment. We're really struggling to find our identity away from home, formation wise, because of everything gone on all season with your injuries, your COVID, your this, your that, whatever. We're one of our strengths the last 20 months. I was thinking about this after the game, and obviously speaking to the gaffer, and you know it's tough speaking to him after that, but I've got to be there to listen to him because he's going to need the vent. So you know after the game I did that, but once I'd had that chat, then I'm thinking, well, what can I say to the gaffer? And one of the things the last 20 months has been really evident about why we've been good, not just because we've got good lads and good guys with personalities and da. That's great. That gets you some way to winning football games. But one of the real things we had was an identity and a formation away from home, an identity and a formation at home. We could change in game. We were very responsive to issues, mistakes, not playing well. So that's the players, that's the management staff, everybody. But what we really had was we had partnerships. And I could pretty much tell you every week, I could name 9, 10 of our starting 11 every fucking week without a doubt. Right now, we're not there. I could tell you who the two in central midfield were. Last year, it was Taylor and Brown. Up front, it was Johnson, Clark, Harrison, Dembele. At the back, it was Kent, Beavers, and Thompson. Religiously, I could tell you that spine of the team, they're the partnerships. And then you might have different wing backs at times, you might have a different 10, but I could tell you the spine partnerships. And if you look at this season, because of the issues and whatever else, we've had 5 different back pairings in 6 games, centre backs, everything else. We've had 4.5 different central midfield partnerships, and we've had 5 different front pairing partnerships. So that's not going to work, you know. But that's the hand we're dealt with everything we've dealt with. So and I said to the gaffer, and I sent him this and said, you know, look, these are the things that got us here. These are the things that are going to get us to where we want to be. And once everything's settled, and once everyone's finally available, and once everyone's over their shit and their fucking hamstrings and their COVID and 10 days isolation and all that crap, you can get back to getting your best partnership, your best team out there, your best formation. You know, find your best formation. Is it 4-4-2? Is it 4-2-3-1? Is it 4 diamond 2? Is it, you know, 3 at the back away from home? Once we get that, and we will get that, there will be some continuity. And players will get confidence because of the person next to them. Do you know what I mean? So, yes, it was a horrible moment against Sheffield United. But, you know, look, those big games away from home sometimes are free shots. You know, Sheffield United are going to pummel a lot of teams at Bramall Lane. You know, Fulham are going to beat a lot of teams at Craven Cottage. They're your free shots. And okay, we blew our load on our free shot on Saturday and got smashed to pieces. Okay, it happens. But you know what? We got to go again. And what we can't be is we can't turn on each other. The fans can't turn on us either, and we don't want to turn on them. And we can't start after 6 games just pointing fingers and moaning about recruitment and moaning about this and moaning about that. You know, again, people get bored of hearing me saying, trust the process. I firmly believe in that. You know, I've been around now 15 years. I really believe in that. You know, I've seen what we've done in the champ before. I've seen when I've panicked early in the champ before and the results. You know, I, I do have full belief. Call me stupid, whatever you want to call me. Do you know what I mean? I feel we haven't seen the best of us yet. We haven't seen our strongest yet. And I really feel we'll win a lot of football games at this level. And yeah, we're going to lose a few games, but that's, you know, I was saying this to one of my partners on Saturday and saying, look, you know, expectation and adjustment has to happen because you're not in League One. You're not expected to win every game. You're not expected to win 5, 6 games a month. This is different mustard. You know, this is going to take us a while to establish ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, for every loss doesn't have to be a catastrophe. It can be a case of, fuck, credit to Sheffield United, brilliant performance. We kind of went under. But you know what? We're going to go out and give it our best in the next game and go from there. So that's where I am by Monday. You know, on Saturday, of course, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm this, I'm that. But at the same time, I'm not angry with my players. I'm not angry with my manager. I'm just looking at it and going, shit, this is what it is. And it's a learning experience. And we've got a lot of good guys in there. They don't go out intentionally to lose 6-2. They don't go out intentionally and make mistakes and look like rag arse rovers for 25 minutes at the back and every fucking ball goes in the net. Do you know what I mean? That's not their intention, you know. And if it was, trust me, I'd be calling them the biggest shit houses alive. But that's not who they are. I know who they are. So, you know, again, it is what it is. You know, I look forward to Reading away tomorrow night. You know, and most people be like, fucking hell, you must, Reading score goals and it's a good team. You're damn right. They're all good teams. This is the
There's
championship.
no easy games.
No, it's one league from the biggest league in the world. This is what you've sweated blood, sweat, and tears for the last few years to get to, and worked your bollocks off last year in horrible circumstances to get to. This is the way it is. I've said it before. We've all got to work harder. We can't work to the same level we did in League One. If the players think training the same as we did in League One is going to get us anywhere in the champ, or even the staff, I'm not saying they're thinking like that, but if they do, they're fucking wrong. This isn't a League One standard. So you've got to drop those standards you left, and you've got to embrace new standards and new work ethic and work fucking harder. This is what it's all about, right down to your diet, your conditioning. You can't carry excess weight in the championship. If your body fat's 2% over, fucking shame on you, because this is one of the biggest leagues in the world. Get your shit in gear. Get in shape. So, and that's not a direct pop at anyone. I'm just saying, for a Peterborough to do well in the championship, we have to be as good as we can be. We have to be as fit as we can be. We have to work harder than everyone else. And I've been saying this before, and I'll keep fucking saying it. And I said it again to my manager on Saturday and Sunday. We got to work harder, harder and harder. Because this is what it's like. This is relentless. We don't have 100 grand a week or 50 grand a week to go and pay players with. So, if we want to really find our feet in this league, we got to do everything we can in our power. Anyway, enough about Peterborough, enough about 6-2. Let's talk about Salford whooping your ass 1-0.
Yeah, so at least we were still in the game for 91 minutes.
No, you prick. And then that hurt. That hurt.
Well, they strung us on longer to then hurt us at the end. So, I wasn't already kind of waiting for defeat for the, it was just one of those where.
What did you play like?
I mean, we should have won. We had the better chances. It still felt a little bit like the week before when we were at home to Walsall, when there just wasn't that final creativity to just make something a little bit special or a little bit different. We're struggling because Leanne Gall's injured, so we've only really got one striker up front. So a lot of stuff was going up the front, and then it wasn't really, it wasn't sticking. So just another frustrating game, and of course, ex-manager, ex-player, 90th minute scores, and you're done. It's funny, Ryan told me afterwards that I'm banned from Valley Parade at this point because I'm a bad omen. So I think I've got one game to redeem myself, or I might not be invited back.
Was that at Valley Parade or at Salford?
No, that was at Salford.
And you travelled all the way to the game, right? Jeez. And what did they look after you when you? What was it like there, by the way? Has there been a lot of money spent on the place?
Not where I went. It was. It's obviously the first time I've been there. It's the smallest ground I've been to in league professional football. I'd have probably been to 70 or 80 of them.
Right.
And it was 6 rows. So we were at back row, which was the 6th row in the stand. Right. The toilets were basically half shipping containers that you just wander into. And of course, it's the biggest crowd they're going to get, or the biggest away following they're going to get all season.
100%.
It's not really built for 1,500 away fans to descend on them. There was only 2,800 there. So
how many away fans are they allowed? Do they allow you to bring?
It was either 13 or 1,400.
It's killing me in a moment. We Birmingham sold 4,000 away tickets at our place, and they'd sell more. And I'm screaming at everyone, you got to give them 6,000 tickets. And the safety people are like, well, where are we putting them? And we can't do it. And the layout. And I'm like, fuck me. We want to grow our crowds, but obviously I don't want to upset our home fans. But, shit, that's an extra 2,000. That's an extra, what's that? I mean, freaking 70 grand. You do that over 10 games, or, it's an extra $1 million in wages available and bring players in with, It's like you want to maximize when you're in a league like the Champ, and fantastic teams like Bradford and Birmingham who bring the fucking house with them. Do you know what I mean? When they travel, I mean, that's the beauty about playing those big clubs. Do you know what I mean? They just travel in numbers like Sunderland do. Fuck me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, half the Wearside is coming when you're playing. So it's incredible.
Yeah, we just sold out pretty much the whole ground if we'd been given the tickets.
100% you would.
And I know we asked for more, and the response was no. And you say, well, that's an extra 20 grand or 30 grand, like you said. And to Salford, it's like, we got a billionaire owner.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. If it was posh, I'd be trying to give you 8,000 tickets.
Right,
You know what I mean? But it's like, like typical whore to revenue, but only because I want to improve the team. But
right.
it's like, my God Almighty. So I mean, obviously, you're missing Leanne goal. You got the new striker. I mean, is this going to cost you? Is this not investing in a top tier striker for your team? Is this going to cost you a promotion?
I mean, you have to worry about dropped points, but I mean, it's
Mm,
early days, like we talk about
sure,
for you. There's
of course.
certainly a lot of football to be played. But I mean, it's worrying if it continues. The goal was based on the striker that we signed that came in, basically doing a sloppy job marking his man at the back post from a corner, and just
Right.
switching off, and it was just an easy goal, a tap in for them. So
Mm,
I do worry, but I mean we're creating the chances, so I'm encouraged. If I was coming and saying there's no chances and it's just horrible football, then I'd probably be more worried. But I mean I do
yeah.
worry about our ability to get on the end of the chances that we're creating.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fair enough. It's like, look, like it is early days. At the end of the day, it's particularly with a new manager as well, and obviously new playing personnel. It's going to take a while. I
Hmm.
mean, you look at League One, and you look at Ipswich, who were
Yeah,
favourites to win the. Even I backed them to win the title, and you're thinking, fuck me, I think they lost 5-2 on Saturday. It
yeah,
was
it's appalling.
nearly a mullering like we fucking took. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
And they were at home.
So yeah. I mean, scary shit. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm in shock. But who knows?
I mean, they got 20 new players. I think they let go of 19 and brought 20 in.
My worry always was, and I said this early on. Like Blackpool did it really well last year. They brought 17 players in, and Critchley, by November, they were a really good fucking team. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he's and so I was always worried with Ipswich. That many new players. 20 new players. Christ Almighty, the turnaround. You're always a little bit concerned about is it too much too soon? You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Is it going to take too long? So look, I'm sure. Christ, they have to turn it around. They're far too good a team to be losing 5-2 to anybody. So who knows? And then you go with Lee Johnson's kind of like hamstring from signing lots of players like Ipswich did, and he's had to go with a lot of what he's had and sprinkle a few loans in and a few others, and they've had a great fucking start. So sometimes it just comes down to good coaching, good old fashioned coaching and managing, right?
Well, I think back to the year that we got promoted to the Premier League, which a long time ago now, but we had a similar start where five or
Yeah,
six games, we'd signed a lot of new players, 5 or 6 games
yeah,
in, we're a second bottom. We looked like we couldn't do anything. And then before you know it, you go on an unbeaten run of 20 odd games. And because everything suddenly clicks,
yeah.
you kind of rocket ship up the table. So, I
What
mean,
can happen?
that's what you got to hope for Ipswich. That when
Yeah,
it clicks, and the quality kind of shows.
and everyone's shocked about Wimbledon. Who called that in the summer?
Hmm.
I said they'd be a dark horse, didn't I? I said they'd be a very, very dangerous team. So listen, fair play to them. I'm glad for it because I love Ivor, who like works at Wimbledon. So I'm glad they're like doing well, and long may it continue.
Yeah, how did they do it? I've got the results out here. They won 4-3 away at Morecambe.
Oh yeah, they listen. Morecambe have done really well, and
Hmm.
Cole Stockton's looking
Still
like
scoring.
yeah, he's still scoring. Fair play to him. But Wimbledon, I mean, obviously, I think they scored in the 95th minute. So there's a lot of goals and activity at Wimbledon. They're certainly exciting their fans, and
Hmm.
they've obviously got young players. So fair fucking play.
Yeah,
It was a hell of a result.
and Plymouth stuffed Sheffield Wednesday 3-0. That was a little bit of a turn up.
I think Rotherham lost. I want to
Yeah,
say
Rotherham lost at
Sheffield
home to
Wednesday
Fleetwood.
lost. Who else? I mean, there was a few results you looked at
Yeah,
it and went,
Charlton
my
lost
God,
at Cheltenham.
that's right. That's right. I mean, like I said to you, League One is like, thank fuck we're not in that league. And I know lots of assholes are thinking, yeah, but you're going to be back there soon. You know what I mean? After a 6-2 drubbing. But yeah, I mean, my God, that league's like, wowee, Christ Almighty. So what else? What else stood out this weekend?
Yeah, let's go back into the championship. So anything? So Blackpool beating Fulham, I guess, was a
Fair
big
play.
result of
Fair play.
the
Yeah,
day.
fair play. Not
Um,
doesn't shock me. I think he's a very tactically astute manager. You know, and it's not an easy place to go. And for teams like us and Blackpool and Hull, you know, we're going to have to do really well at home this year. So, you know, fair play to them.
And yeah, there wasn't much else of interest really in the champion. Like nothing that went against what you would maybe think form was
Yeah,
down in League
a lot of
Two.
draws.
Yeah, and not a lot of goals really compared to other goals I
Yeah.
think were in League One this weekend. Down in League Two, we had Hartlepool beating Bristol Rovers. Their awful start continues.
Yeah.
Leighton Orient stuffing Oldham. Things aren't getting any better for them.
No,
And Sutton winning their first game beat Stevenage. So
fair
that
play.
was nice to see.
Yeah, no, fair play. And then is Harrogate still top of League Two?
They so my head in the sand after the game on Saturday. I haven't looked at the table, but I know on Friday night, Harrogate I think drew on Friday night, and they were top of the table then.
Right.
So
Listen, this is a football podcast. You got to do your reconnaissance. You got to do your research. You know.
I'm going with your advice that the league doesn't matter until at least 10 games.
The table. Don't read any tables. Exactly right. God Almighty. Yeah, you're not wrong.
So maybe after 10 games, I'm going to have the tables printed out and we can start talking about who's doing well on the table. But for now, I'm trying to avoid that.
No, understood.
And then what did we have in the Premier League? So you talked about Liverpool earlier. Good result. You know, people saying, "Oh, you know, maybe the old Liverpool's coming back." I'm not sure if you believe that or not, but
no, I you know, devastated to lose the kid Harvey Elliott. You know, horrific, and again, you know, he started every game nearly, and now you've lost. You know, what Klopp says is a key member of our starting 11. You know, what were the positives? Positives would be, look, Leeds are a brilliant side, but what Leeds do give you is a lot of opportunities because of the way Leeds play. They almost play on the edge. So you've seen when it's gone wrong, like United have smashed them a couple of times. When it goes wrong, it can go very wrong. And Leeds had some good chances, but Liverpool had a shot. I mean, Sadio Mane, you know, if he hadn't scored, it would have been an award for like the worst performance from a striker in Angola I've ever seen. I mean, he should have scored 5 goals. And if Liverpool lose on goal difference, you can blame him. You know, I mean, just in that one game. So the Salah getting his 100th goal. Look, there's a lot to be positive about. I still worry. I've said this. I stick by it. You know, Klopp's the miracle man. So yeah, I hope they can do it. But this league is incredible. Chelsea, City, United now with Ronaldo, the return of Ronaldo. Even my missus was watching the game at 3 o'clock in America on Saturday while I'm watching the posh getting fucking mullered. She's watching Cristiano and his abs fucking scoring 2 goals, you know. So such as the excitement of him coming back.
At least
so,
one of you had fun on Saturday afternoon then.
well, listen, don't you worry. I took it out on her that night. So in a good way. But yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, Ronaldo coming back scoring goals. Yeah, it's exciting. Look, the Premier League is mad. I mean, Chelsea. I watched a bit of the Chelsea Villa game. Villa were fucking brilliant, but Chelsea won the game 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a 3-0 game. Brighton have started brilliantly. Really surprised they beat Brentford. Who else in there? Arsenal finally, you know, got their season up and running, beating Norwich.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
Palace putting 3 past Spurs.
Yeah, and I look at Edouard from Celtic, who they paid 15 million for. Scores 2 in his debut. I've always liked him. I think he's a goal scorer, and I'm thinking, Liverpool, you couldn't find 15 million to have him on our bench instead of fucking Divock Origi. Like, really? And I tell you right now, if that guy goes on and scores 15 Premier League goals, there should be a lot of technical scouts and directors fired for allowing him to get bought for 15 million. And some of the other clubs like a Liverpool didn't go out and get him. Because he's young, he's prolific, he's powerful. He comes off a bench and scores 2 goals in his Premier League debut, 15 fucking million. I mean, really? You know, we're left with what? Divock Origi, who can't get in our match day squad. So we didn't even have a striker on our bench on Saturday. They were playing Ox up front when he came on. God help us if we have to rely on him. So yeah, just you know. But listen, fair play to Palace. Yeah, a great game for Vieira. His old enemy Spurs. Obviously, the red card helped change the dynamics of that game. And Palace were very good, very good.
Now, do Leeds fans have anything to worry about from their start of the season?
No. I think they've had a shit start. 4 games, two losses, I'm trying to think. What is it? 2 losses, 2 draws, 1 win and loss. They've had a crap start. They haven't won any of their opening 4 games, and like I said, they live on the edge. I don't think they have anything to worry about. I think Leeds will beat a lot of teams. I mean, so far they've played Man United, they've played Liverpool. I want to say they played Everton. I mean, they've played some good teams. You know, I want to see Leeds play Burnley. I want to see Leeds play Southampton. I want to see Leeds play Newcastle. You know, I still think Leeds will be a top half finish. I still think top 10, yeah, comfortably.
Now you mentioned Everton and Burnley there, so I don't know if you had the chance to see, because I know you were running around a little bit this afternoon. I
Yeah,
just watched the second half of that before we started to record, and you know, Everton really tore them apart. Burnley in the second half. Burnley actually scored first, and then Everton hit back with 3 in I think 5 or 6 minutes, and it could have probably been 4 or 5 by the end of it.
yeah. Listen, they have a Everton are real old school. It's almost they're very like Burnley. They very much play with wide players. They very much play to their target man, Calvin Lewin. You know, they're very much, you know, the core of the power they've got in the middle. I mean, they're a powerful team, Everton. You know, Rafa Benitez will be more motivated than ever before to really make Everton like, because nobody rated him going into that job. The fans didn't rate him. So he'll be really up for that. And the one thing I'll say about Rafa Benitez, not my cup of tea, because he's very usually defensive minded. He's a fucking hard worker. So, you know, don't be surprised by that. Do I think they have the squad for top 4 for the season? No. That will run out of steam. You know, like last year, Southampton were top of the table early on. Do you know what I mean? So Leicester are always up there, and then 4th, 5th, 6th by the time of the season. Sometimes that's because your squad's not quite as strong as the top teams. You know what I mean? So Premier League's been good. It's been entertaining. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of goals. You know, there's everyone can beat each other in that league. Yeah, it's fascinating. What was the end result with Burnley Everton?
3-1. I think it
3-1 in
was
the end.
finished.
Finished that
Yeah.
way. Yeah. So Burnley, I'll tell you what right now, if they go down, fucking hell, after
We
the new owners that bought that place, woof.
we talked about that last year, didn't we? When they
Mm,
took over, that it seemed, I
yeah.
think it was a highly leveraged buyout and
Mm.
putting a lot of debt on the club, and it seemed like it's a risky proposition if they go down.
Sean Dyche is brilliant. I'm not sure how many years you can keep working a miracle.
Yeah.
Joe Royle did it for years at Oldham. Obviously, you had Stoke, Tony Pulis did it for years, but eventually you run out of that look, that steam. Do you know what I mean? And Burnley have just been fabulous for like 5, 6, 7 years, whatever long they've been in the Premier League now. And Dyche has probably been manager of the year 3 times, and he hasn't been given that credit. And you know, I know they bought a couple of, I believe, wing backs they brought in the window. But yeah, I mean, look, I could be wrong, but something this year could be the dangerous year for them.
Now, if somebody like Sean Dyche decides, you know what, I'm going to chance my arm somewhere else, maybe they do get relegated, or maybe he's kind of had enough of the battle. Would he get another Premier League club, or is he going to be in a Chris Wilder situation where
Yeah,
it's
he's not fashionable enough, which is wrong because I think he's a brilliant manager. So you won't get the opportunity some Greek coach or some Spanish coach or some Italian coach would get. Do you know what I mean? And that's a real shame because you'd like to see what he could do with a better budget. You know, it's always one of those things. So he would end up he would take a top 8 championship team and then go again. Do you know what I mean? And that would be a real shame because, you know, look, let's hope Burnley stay up and Sean stays there. I know he loves being there, and I'm sure they're going to break the bank to try and keep him. He's their most important signing. I think they're trying to give him a new contract, and if they lose Sean Dyche, those new owners, fucking hell, it'd be wow, catastrophic. Catastrophic.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to talk about before I go to some
Sure.
questions this week, and one of them actually is related to away income. You know, you talked about Posh that you took, I think, a couple of thousand to Sheffield United. You know, the numbers that we took to Salford. As an away team, do you make more money if your fans travel in larger numbers, or is it only the home team that benefit from that?
No, I want to say we get 5%. So if our fans go and buy 5,000 tickets, generate 100 grand, I want to say last time I knew it was like 5. We would get 5 grand out of that. So, you know, us as a club don't really benefit, but that's the whole home and away thing. So, you know, that's fine. That's the rules. That's the way it is. There's no half on the gates and, you know, whatever else, because it gives the poshes of the world a chance. When a Sunderland come with 5,000 people or a Birmingham come with 5,000 people, that's a bumper gate, you know, and you don't want them on a Tuesday night in the winter. You want them on a Saturday. You know, like we had Cardiff on a Tuesday night. Fair play. I'm not sure how many people are going to travel from Cardiff to us. Anyway, now if we'd had I don't know, a Birmingham on a Tuesday night, we ain't selling 4 or 5,000 tickets. So you want them on a Saturday, right?
Yeah, so there's basically it's going to cover your admin costs and not a lot else.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
Now, there's been the debate this week about a World Cup every 2 years. Arsene Wenger
Nonsense.
seems to be dreaming this up. And I was actually
Nonsense.
surprised at some of the clubs and associations who are coming. Well, I'm not surprised by some of the associations coming out because they're just in it for the money. But I'm actually
Of
surprised
course.
by some of the managers coming up and saying, well, at least, give it a hearing.
Yeah.
But what do you make of that?
No. I just think you dilute the seriousness of the World Cup, the quality. I'm not a fan. Like I love the Ryder Cup. It's every 2 years. It's not every year. You know what I mean? The World Cup. We've got the Euros already. If we didn't have the Euros, I'd say okay, maybe that's something you look at, but you don't have the Euros. But it's like no, for me, it's a no. I just don't. I don't see how it makes sense. I don't see it with the time. These players are already moaning about lack of fucking rest time, international breaks. Yeah, for me, can't happen. So let's hope it doesn't happen. Because no. On the other hand, there's to give Ireland a chance of finally qualifying again because we're already out of this fucking World Cup coming up, like 5 games in.
I think you need more than that to
Oh,
to be able to
stop.
qualify at this rate.
We need a miracle. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But no, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. The professor Wenger is obviously getting paid a few dollars. So, it's in his interest for it to be every 2 years for some bizarre reason, but
It,
not for me.
and no, I mean, it's funny. I heard about it without realizing that it was Arsene Wenger behind it. It actually really surprised
Mm,
me that somebody like that he would come up with an idea like that because to me it seems like a stupid idea, and you don't
mm.
necessarily look at him as somebody who would be coming up with something that would be dead on arrival.
He's a football addict. He probably misses not having World Cup action in the summer to
Hmm.
watch, hence why he wants it every 2 years. Plus, I think he works for FIFA. So he gets paid a few dollars, doesn't he? So, yeah, I mean, look, bad idea.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Something that is actually a couple of weeks old, but I have been meaning to ask you about was that you recently got the Twitter handle for Peterborough the Posh. Um,
Yes.
and I just wondered if that's something that it seemed like, at least from the club's social media perspective, they were promoting that, celebrating that. Was it a big deal to get it from a brand perspective, or just like, does it really mean anything what your Twitter handle is, or is it a
I
nice to
think so.
have?
I mean, the posh is like the posh, so it is a branding thing. And I think, as you're rising the leagues and you're trying to become a brand, and that we're undergoing a whole website reconstruction, and lots of things digitally are happening for us. So the branding is very important, and big credit to Jake Baxter and everyone involved, making that happen. And I think the world we now live in nowadays, social media is such a prevalent, important part of any business, and knowing how to operate it correctly and monetize it and do well from it and build your fan base. And we've now got fans in Canada, we've got fans in America. We had a Malaysian kid sign for us recently, and he sold more shirts than our number 9. So these are all the things you look at because as a business, you want to expand everything, including your fan base. And if it makes it easier for people to find us on Twitter by typing in the posh, like on Instagram, we're called the posh. So every time I used to do a link in with a video with the posh and then post it to Twitter, some poor sod who had the posh on Twitter used to get linked in, even though it was the posh on Instagram. So I don't know who we kidnapped or who we threatened to get us, but it happened. So I hope they found the guy.
You, you mentioned there about signing a kid from Malaysia and selling the shirts. Like, does that
Yeah.
ever come into consideration when you're looking at making signings of what the commercial
No,
impact could be?
not at our level. No, no, it doesn't. People always used to say sign Polish people, sign Italians. It's big in Peterborough. I'm like, that okay. It kind of they need to be able to play football. As much as you like, oh, commercially this is great and whatever else, but football first, right? So as much as you want to build your commercial aspect of it and your fan base and your 11's got to be good. So this kid was really good. We signed him to our under 23 squad. It just so happened he's from somewhere in Malaysia, and his shirts are very popular. Now if he breaks into our team, fuck. If that's good for us, him as a player, we make a few quick commercially from it. Tremendous. But I want him to be a good football player. And he's certainly not getting in the first team squad just because he's from a certain area of the world.
Let's get kicked off with some listener questions that we received this week. And thank you, as ever, for everybody for submitting questions to us. The first question is from Gaz on Twitter. And Gaz asks, what does Darragh think of Chesterfield's model? Which he says, and I don't know enough about Chesterfield's model to say whether this is true or not. He says it essentially operates like a charity. He's worried
Well,
that there's a lot of money that's being spent for a National League club, and he doesn't want them to get into financial difficulty again.
Yeah, no, they've definitely pushed the boat out, and I know that from within the game. I hear the figures and the deals and whatever else. So they've suddenly come into this money. I know a few years ago they were in trouble. I know also 7, 8 years ago we were battling Chesterfield for promotion from League One, and they finished in the playoffs, and Paul Cook was there. So it's a great club. They had a new stadium. I didn't know about the charity. That's me ill-informed. I apologise for not doing my research. So I'd like to find out more about that because that's really, really odd. But you always have the right to be worried about any football club that's overspending for the level they're at. So as a football person, I completely understand why you would feel like that because we've seen enough horror stories out there, and Chesterfield have had a bad patch. But I can't judge them because I don't know enough about them, and it could be a really well-run outfit now. And and I could turn around and go, well, they shouldn't be spending that money, but they could be making shitloads of money. So who knows?
And that reminds me of something that Derek Adams actually said this week in the press, the Bradford manager, that he was calling for transparency on team budgets, saying that, like in the American sport where you basically know what the budgets are for everybody, you know what the wages are for everybody. His perspective was people might put it into more context. Your one, expectations, and two, success or failure, when you can be judged against your peers in your league based on what you're spending.
100%.
And
I
I
have
just
no
wonder
problem
what
with
your
that.
thought was. Yeah.
I like it. I've always liked the American system of we generate 1 billion, it's split between 32 teams. You're allowed to spend 150 million. You're allowed to spend 150 million. That's how it's done. I'm good for transparency. I've always argued, like I'm proud to announce when we sign a player what we paid, or what we sold them for. But every other club wants unfucking disclosed in every deal, and I get sick to death of the whole undisclosed thing. I'm a big fan of why can't we show the figures? Why can't there be a chart with, I released on Twitter at the end of the window the business we did, the money we spent, the money we brought in, the contracts we redid. I was very, very honest about that with our fans because I think it needs to be explained to people that. And yet some of our fans still moan at me and troll me and come at me about, well, you didn't do enough in the window, and we were the third biggest spender in the championship in transfer fees, but I didn't do enough in the window. So again, you're never going to make everyone happy. Not after you get fucking wallop 6-2 for sure. That's for sure. So transparency for me, absolutely shouldn't be an issue. Derek is correct.
Yeah. I think he's making the case that look at what I did at Morecambe, look at what I did at Plymouth, and perhaps what my budget is at Bradford versus what expectations are.
I
And
think
some of the others, when you compare it to a Salford,
he's trying to cover his arse as well, because what he's trying to say is, I'm at Bradford, and everyone thinks Bradford pay these massive wages, but I guarantee you, if you saw our budget, it's not as big as you think.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a side eye to that. And as owner, I'd be like, okay, calm down. You know what I mean? Like,
Stop
calm
covering
down,
your ass
fella.
already.
Exactly. You're buying insurance here, and you're gonna piss me off with that crap. And I've had managers before who've moaned like fuck about budgets and everything else. The one thing I'll say about my gaffer, I don't think in 15 years I've ever heard him moan about or talk about our budget.
Mm-hmm.
Baz has done it loads of times. Yeah, fucking smallest budget in the fucking league. Yeah. And I've had to ring him and tell him to shut the fuck up. But the manager's never really done it.
So I got a question from Zach, who's a Leeds fan. Are there any more bonuses to be paid to Posh from the Ivan Toney deal, or are they all completed when you got promoted, or when Brentford got promoted?
Oh no, there's more. There's money for every game he plays. There's money for him staying up. There's money for goals he scores. There's a sell on. So there's plenty in the bag there if Ivan can get on a hot streak and score plenty of goals. Yeah, absolutely.
And the follow-up was, are there any other players that you're in for a big payday if something in particular happens that you've sold on recently?
Recently, some of the younger players we've sold to Premier League clubs, if they come good and get sold for 20 million down the line, we've got like hefty 20+% sell-ons in there. So a little bit like your McBurney deal, where you eventually got paid in when he went for big dough. The recent bigger sales player-wise, is there anyone there I can see popping off and getting us bar Ivan? No. So I got to get my act together. We've got to generate a couple of more sales, and get some players higher up.
Well, I'm sure that if you wanted to sell, you've got lots of takers for some of your kids. So maybe it's better that you got hold of them for now.
Absolutely. I'm young Ronnie's going to be making his league debut soon, probably tomorrow against Reading. So I'm praying for him. He gets a run, because there's been some of our defenders have played 4 or 5 games and they've been shocking, but still played. So, if young Ronnie can come through ready and get a run, the rest of the world will see what I've seen and a lot of our coaches have
Yeah.
seen. He's a tremendous talent, so that'll be exciting.
So we have a couple of questions from Jivan. The first one may not
Sure.
actually be relevant now, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does Darragh have any idea of how much attendance would be affected if vaccine passports do come in? And I say I don't think it's relevant because, it's changing day by day, but the latest I hear is that they're not planning to do vaccine passports. But were you
Yeah,
worried about attendances if that would have come in?
of course I was worried. Of course. Of course there's going to be a percentage of people who won't come or who can't get a vaccine, who don't vaccinate their kids. I would hate to have to tell a posh fan they have to vaccinate their 12-year-old child. I'm vaccinated. You're vaccinated. My wife's vaccinated. I don't want to vaccinate my children from COVID. Again, I read a study yesterday about, young guys, teenage boys and heart things. And, there's less risk with COVID than that. And it's just like, why are we in such a hurry to vaccinate our fucking kids? I don't get these monsters who are like constantly putting that on. So, give you an example. I can't go to New York with my kids. I have to get them vaccinated to take them to New York. So fuck New York. You know what I mean? Fuck the people running New York to do that with my children. Luckily, we live in Florida. And even though your favorite president, fucking granddad Biden, or basement Biden, as I call him, has now tried to bring in a mandate vaccine, fuck him. It's not going to force me to do that to my children. So, him and the other assholes like Whitty in England can kiss my ass. And I'm glad there's no mandate in now, because now I can take my kids to England for Christmas. Because before, I wouldn't be able to go to the cinema. I wouldn't be able to go to a sporting event. Do you know what I mean? Without like enforcing the vaccine on my children. I personally don't think kids need it. So there we are. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm still not sure what we'll do when the kids are able to have them. Our kids are 8 and 5, so they couldn't take them
But
anyway. But
do you agree? Do you think kids need it?
I don't have an opinion. Like I'm not.
Okay.
The reason I don't have an opinion is because I haven't read up on it enough, because I haven't been forced with having to make that decision.
Sure.
Because they can't anyway. So I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But I
they
don't
want to.
believe. What's that?
Pfizer are trialing 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I saw that they're wanting to do something like Halloween or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're now trialing 5-year-olds. So trust me, that decision will be on your doorstep soon from your favorite president. If they're going after 12-year-olds, they're going to go after 5-year-olds.
What I don't believe in is like all the problems that you had in New York and that we would have had here, in not being able to go places without having a passport.
Correct.
Because we'd have faced those same things as well. Like we talked about before we went on mic, we're going to the theatre tomorrow in London. If you had to show vaccine passports, and we wouldn't be able to do that with the kids because, they're too young to have it. So
yeah. And Fauci, the fraud now today, wants air travel to be all vaccine passports. So I wouldn't be able to take my kids ever on holiday. You know what I mean? So it's just, honestly, the world we live in, Philip, very frustrating. So in answer to the fan, I'm sure we would have lost some fans, from a ticket perspective. And I was concerned about, when I go back to the UK in October, how do I get into away games? Because I've got my J&J. It wasn't the British vaccine. So did they want me to put another jab in my fucking arm just to get into a British sports event? So it's all a bit unsavory for me, Philip. I watch Canada, I watch France, I watch Italy, I watch people out there protesting. I'm happy they are. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. All these liberal leaders, who want this and are forcing this. Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me.
now, do you find? So I know going back to Florida is not necessarily representative of the rest of the states, but you went to New York first. You notice a big difference now between England, where it's really been strange to me coming here to England and very little mask wearing whatsoever. Like
It's brilliant.
The pandemic's done.
It's brilliant.
Have you noticed? Have you come back to the States and found that it's been more restrictive? Or
no, I where did I have to wear a mask the other day? Oh, when I went to Chase Bank, and I was like, "Fucking hell, are you still playing this game? Are you with the masks?" And my children are still wearing masks in their private school. So because again, they're following the brilliant CDC. England is better for that now. But funny enough, 5 months ago it was the reverse. So it just keeps flipping. Now I've been fortunate because I've been in the UK football business, and then I'm back home in Florida. So I've kind of dove hooked both times. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and like you, I was there July and August. It was great. I didn't wear a mask for 2 whole months, and then obviously I had to get in an airplane and come home to Florida. You put a mask on for 12 hours. Then I was in New York with a vaccine passport, and suddenly de Blasio brought the masks back in inside the hotel. I guess the problem here is, Phil, these clowns just keep changing every day. You know what I mean? You know, you got yesterday, you got your beloved fucking vice president coming out and fucking dopey cow saying, you know, we need the anti-vax, the unvaccinated to get vaccinated to protect those who are vaccinated. Now you're woke contradictory. Now you're telling people, well, then hang on, the vaccine's not safe. So it's just stop with the shite and stop changing every day. You know, we all know you can still get COVID when you're vaccinated, but we also all know the idea that you're going to die or go to the hospital is fucking reduced massively. So vaccines work. No one here is an anti-vaxxer. Vaccines work. I just don't think in a demographic of under 17s who fucking have more chance of dying of the flu, they need to have a jab in their arm. But I'm happy to be the guinea pig.
Yeah, you know, I feel like 18s plus, you know, I can see reasons why
Yes,
you'd have
fine,
mandates.
fine, based on data. But give me the data where 18 plus are in real danger of being in hospital and dying. You know, because I've got flu data and I've got COVID data. I just don't see what my 12-year-old daughter needs to do to get in a fucking airplane. And eventually they're going to want your 5-year-old to do it. So that concerns me. So there you go with vaccines. Sorry, everybody, to talk COVID again, because I know it can piss people off. But, you know, it's our job as adults to protect our children. And, you know, all we've done is fucking punish our children the last 17, 18 months. And I'm fucking fed up with it. And anyone here who has advocated for closing schools and advocating for masking children, I fucking hate you. I really do. I do with a passion.
Well, on that note, let's ask the second question, which
Sure.
is actually for a question from me about Tyler French. The question was, what do you think of Tyler French when he was at Bradford? He seems to be doing well at Wrexham. Tyler French is one of those players, and I forget where exactly we got him from, but we got him from National League South or something like that. For we paid a little bit of money for him, you know, maybe 5 or
Yeah.
10 grand. And you know,
Why didn't it come off? Why didn't it come off for him?
I mean, I think he was a wrong place in the wrong time. You know, a team
Okay.
that's struggling is somebody who's just coming into professional football for the first time. We probably had an abundance of right backs. And we were just, you know, we freed him last January window, which was just as we were like third bottom and we were just kind of
Yeah.
trying to get out of that. And I
Yeah.
think we just let anybody go who we could let go, who perhaps potentially had some opportunities elsewhere, so we could clear some wage space and get some new blood in. So I don't think he did
He's okay.
particularly badly, but I mean, I don't think we missed him.
No, as someone's asked me now, because he's doing well at Wrexham, obviously. There's a better fullback in the National League than him.
Right.
So I know he's doing well and everything else, but you know, what do I think? Do I think Bradford missed out on the next, you know, Trent Alexander? You know, no.
Right.
You know, decent player. Will get better. You know, he's now at a big club at Wrexham. So could he? Some players are just bizarre. You know, they come to certain clubs like you've had it with strikers. They just don't do well, and then they move on and they become fucking Messi and Ronaldo. You know, elsewhere. That's just football. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. You can't quite put your finger on it, you know, and find out why, how, where. It's just, it happens.
Yeah. I certainly don't look and think, oh, we missed that one.
No, and there are players we've all had where you think, fucking hell, what a career you've had. But I never sat there posh and thought, geez, you're going to be like top class.
Right.
You know, we've all had them.
Yeah. All right. I got a question from Andy. Andy says, we talked about, you know, needing to invest money in players for, you know, a push to promotion where that player may be the missing link.
Yes.
He says, you know, if a club's owner is unwilling or unable to invest in, let's say, a £200,000 player, £300,000 player, I guess the value doesn't really matter. If an owner is unwilling or unable to invest, could a club turn to its fans to fund buying players? For example, a syndicate similar to buying a racehorse, or a wealthy supporter or a sponsor putting up the cash. You know, is there any rules that would stop somebody coming from the outside with money to invest basically in a player for the club?
If that outside person has influence and ownership on a player, yes, it's a problem. But I have seen initiatives where fans have raised money to buy players. So you could, in theory, do that. Start to fund, you know, GoFundMe page for Bradford to sign a centre forward. Do you know what I mean? And the club agree they will sign that centre forward. Otherwise, they give the money back, and that can be done. there was years ago, and there's still companies today who occasionally want to get in and offer money to you to go and buy players. Or we've had it, because of my record in the transfer market, we've had external companies come and go, we want to give you some money to buy players, but we want a percentage of the profits you generate, because they see it as a good investment. But that's illegal. It's not allowed. And it's just the way it is, because of the whole murky third-party ownership world. Tevez, Mascherino years ago, what goes on in South America between those clubs and some European clubs. There's a lot of grey area. And I think it's frightened the EFL, it's frightened the Premier League from ever engaging with a company, because on the face of it, if a company wants to come to Bradford and go, hey, we're going to give you 300 grand to buy a player. We don't want the 300 grand back, but if the player gets sold for 7 figures, we get a percentage. We have no interest in being involved in the day-to-day training. We have no interest in trying to sell the player to another club. He's Bradford's player. We've just given you the money to buy him, and we're now going to share in his success. For me, I don't think that should be illegal.
Mm-hmm. But it is.
But is it fully illegal? Yes, but there are ways people still try and get around it. But
Right.
I think that should be something that should be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
If a rich Bradford fan turned around and said, look, I'm going to give you 250 grand for the guy that Darragh said, non-league to sign. But you know what? Once you sell him and you get 500 grand back, you get 250 back. At that point, I want my money back.
Yeah, I get your first 250, and I get 10% or 20%
a percentage
or
of
whatever
the
of the
rest. Correct. Absolutely. So I don't think that should be illegal, because that fan's not interfering with your team. He's not interfering with the player. He's not trying to sell the player to a Brazilian club or to a Premier League club. That has to be Bradford's decision to do that with his registration. The registration belongs to Bradford, not the person. So there should be a way to enable it and allow it.
All right.
And on that note, that's all, folks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, as always. And as always, please keep the questions coming. hardtruthfootball.com/contact. We want to thank everybody who voted for us in the Football Content Awards.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how that goes in 3 or 4 weeks here. Until next week, good luck. You'll have already played before this goes out tomorrow, but good luck tomorrow at Reading.
Thanks, pal.
And I'll talk to you again next week.
All right, Philip. Speak to you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.